Hey everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. I'm Brian Parks. In this video, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot recently, and that's the question of when is the right time to refactor and how much time should you spend refactoring? Most of us have worked at companies where there's a code base that has existed, basically since the birth of the company. There's a lot of technical debt. It's either hidden as conventions or the design patterns of the code, or it's overt and you can see that people just rushed through whatever they were trying to do, trying to get features out the door and not really thinking about you, the future engineer, trying to maintain this code base. So like I said, I think most of us have experienced this, and we always want to refactor. We want to set aside time to refactor. And there's the continual battle of trying to get time to do that refactoring, right? Because most of the time we're trying to get features out the door. We're trying to fix bugs. And as we continue to do more work, sometimes we incur more technical debt. But at the very least, we're noticing all the technical debt that exists in the code base, and seeing all this technical debt just increases our drive and our desire to do this refactoring. On the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are, or companies, products that are at the very beginning, and nobody cares about a boilerplate app, right? Just the fact that you have created an app that responds to HTTP requests isn't very interesting to people. They want to be able to solve their problem, right? So at the beginning of a company, there's a huge focus and a huge emphasis on getting value to market as quickly as possible. So both ends of the spectrum, there's this avoidance of refactoring. At the beginning of the spectrum, it's less important than getting value to market. At the other end of the spectrum, it's big and complicated, and it's going to take a lot of time. Both are bad. So how do we fit in the middle of the spectrum? How do we get to that place where it's not big and complicated to do refactoring, and we haven't dug ourselves so deep in a hole that it's going to take a huge monumental effort to do that refactoring? The short answer is always be refactoring, right? From the very beginning, think about refactoring. But that's not necessarily the best way to frame it. That's our goal. That's what we want to have. If we're always refactoring and we're always doing a little bit of code maintenance, a little bit of code improvement every time we touch the code, we'll be able to make it happen, make those large efforts happen over, maybe a long period of time, but as we're building other features. And we also won't get ourselves into the situation where we're dug so deep into this hole that, in some cases, companies just throw out the code base because it's just that unmaintainable. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to always have a path forward. Otherwise, you're spending a huge amount of time and effort rebuilding something you already had, right? That's not a great place to be. So what does that look like? In my opinion, what that looks like is write a piece of code, build a feature, build a piece of a feature, build some small unit of work, unit of value, and then go back and refactor it. As you're going through it, you think, maybe there's a different way to do this. Maybe there's a better way to do this. Or you start noticing patterns. You start noticing repetitions. You've repeated code that someone else had built. Or maybe you're using a tool like SonarQube, and when you commit your code, it tells you, hey, look, there's code that looks like it's duplicated here. Maybe that's an opportunity to refactor. My suggestion is always be thinking about how you can refactor. That doesn't mean thinking about how you can over-engineer the code. You don't need to be building the most perfect, most elegant code, 100% object-oriented or solid or functional, or, using monads because that's the way to go. Everything should be a monad. right? It doesn't need to be some degree of perfect. It just needs to be better when you're done with it than when you started. Leave the code better than when you found it. Leave the code better than when you finished your feature, but always be refactoring. Write a line of code that fixes a bug or implements a feature, refactor the surrounding area so that it's more maintainable, more readable. In that way, you're not spending a huge amount of time refactoring. You're also not completely ignoring refactoring in the pursuit of delivering value as quickly as possible. You can do both, and by doing that, you never get into the situation where you need to completely throw away a code base. Now, what happens if you're already, getting further and further along that spectrum, closer and closer to the situation where you feel like you might have to throw away that code base? Same thing. Identify areas that you want to improve and see if you can work those into how you're doing feature development. Always be looking at how you want those patterns to shake out. So if you're building a new feature, use the new design pattern. If you're building that feature in an area of code that's in an area that needs to be refactored, see if you can do the refactoring and the feature development at the same time. Another good way to do it is when you're building tests. There's nothing that says you can't refactor for understanding, refactor for testing. In some cases, if you want to write a test for an area of code, you have to refactor it. So find ways where refactoring is itself part of the feature development, part of the bug fix, and so that it all meshes together. Hopefully that was helpful. That's kind of what I've been thinking about the last few days. If you have other opinions, go ahead and leave a note in the comment. Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Next video, or possibly the video after that, I'm not sure. I have a couple videos in the works, a couple ideas floating around. We're going to be doing some actual coding. I'm going to show you some code that I've been writing over the past couple weeks that I'm really excited about. So stay tuned for that, and make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell so you'll get notified when that video drops. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.